Well, I meant to cover this about a couple of weeks ago, but I missed out on it because there was other stuff happening. It seems seems to be fingers crossed. It seems to be a pretty quiet week so far this week, but I may have been wrong. This video will go out on Friday, so who knows? Maybe we've walked away by this time, and it's all God knows what's yeah. So yeah, but I think this is really true. And again, this comes from the Financial Times, and it's why Nigel Farage should beware the new pro-European fanatics. Brexiteers know they've created a mirror image of themselves, a movement for Europe led by obsessives. Perhaps the final gloat for the Brexiteers, with far too much relish for anyone who was eating breakfast at that time. Nigel Farage beamed his lavicious grin and declared that the Remainers are now the fruitcakes and loonies now. The horror. They are supposed to be the rational people, unswayed by emotion. Fruitcakes, how very dare you? And yet, we also know who he's talking about. Anyone who inhabits the major Remain circles, London, Scotland, Twitter, will know that there is a constituency out there which is not quite ready to sulk off with its metropolitan tail between its legs. Boris Johnson may be calling for a national reconciliation, but hardcore Remainers who prefer a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Daily, people rage at Brexiteers. The new Brexit coins are at least the latest tweets in the trade talks. I sympathise with those who think it a mistake, but the decision has been made. We could, I suppose, continue to bang on about the referendum and perhaps the sharp practice of vote leave, but at some point you turn into a football fan whining about the penalty you could have had a long time ago in a long lost semi final. Aside from the gratification of turning on his opponents, the phrase once used about him, Farage knows the value of diminishing his adversaries by depicting them as unhinged. Unhinged, the party bores of both politics. At the weekend, the Daily Telegraph ran columns still waging war on the 16 million people who did not share its worldview. One was headed, "The men guilty of Remain will never be forgiven." Another declared that the sneering Liberals' contempt for ordinary people is the real issue facing Brexit Britain. No one does sneering better than a right-winger sneering at sneering Liberals, by the way. I wonder if there is a TV show about it. The Great British Sneer-Off. There is one problem for Farage that a more reflective figure might note. He now knows that the fruitcakes can win. His side's fruitcakes took decades to claw their way into the political mainstream. The new pro-EU fanatics already have a massive head start. The referendum created a pro-Europeanism that did not previously exist in the UK. Britain's Brexiteers were once the ones boring on about the deceptions in which the way Britain joined the EU. For years, in small meeting rooms and private dinners, Tory MPs droned on about the EU directives and treaties, and they were ridiculed for their obsession. But slowly, they captured a political party, and then the agenda, and then the voters. If I were Farage, therefore, I'd worry about the fruitcakes, loonies, and all those pro-Europeans nursing a grievance. There is no quick return to the EU. The only speedy path would be would require an economic collapse so severe that no one who lives here would wish for that anyway. But the fruitcakes and loonies are not going to go away. They have learnt from the Brexiteers, and they have demographics on their side. Brexiteers know they have created a mirror image of themselves, a movement for Europe led by obsessives, fueled by the betrayal myth, and already close to capturing one of the two main political parties. It will be hard going for a while. I told you so. Rarely plays well. The leaders will be marginalised and ignored, but they will press on, making their argument, of course. The smart move is not to go for an immediate demand to rejoin, but to follow the Brexiteers' lead with incremental calls. Perhaps at first they will ask for closer ties in a few areas, and for a few more, and then a few more, and then boom. Just like that, a friend who had always secretly fancied you, and they are suddenly declaring their total love. The British will not quickly seek to reverse Brexit. Johnson has time to make a success of it if he can, although it's not likely. But while the wounds of the Brexit campaign may heal, the scars will remain, and pro-Europeanism is now a visceral belief of a significant portion of the country's political identity. It is as emotional for them as it was the Brexiteers. So Farage and his allies can enjoy their moment, but the fruitcakes are going to regroup, and it is up to his side to prove that they were right. If they don't, they may find that the fruitcake army is larger than expected and all too reconcilable. And I've said this before, if there's one good thing that Brexit actually did, it galvanised a massive pro-European movement that had never existed before. And they're right. We have a massive head start on these guys. And, you know, it's only a matter of time. Everything we've seen so far, Brexit's not going to end well. And the Tories, who are continuingly to insist of more and more increasingly right-wing extremism of economic policy, that is only going to do damage to the very people who voted for Brexit. Because sooner or later, these people are going to realise, hang on a second, I voted for Brexit because I thought it would make my life better. But here I am, 6, 7, 10 years later, and my life hasn't improved. It's got worse. And this is why I say to people, we need to act now with these people. Don't be so quick to get angry with these people. Sympathise with them and bring them into the European movement. These people, you know, they were not fanatics. They voted for something they at the time thought was right. These people can be convinced with logic and logic thoughtful arguments. The idea of a really positive pro-European message is going to get out there, and it's going to spread like wildfire. Again, the quickest way back would be for a total economic collapse, and I don't want that to happen. And here's the thing, I much rather prefer is looking down 10 years down the line and just go, yeah, this Brexit thing hasn't worked out too well, has it? And then, as it says there, just push ever closer. That's all we have to do. And time and demographics are on our side. They're not on the Brexiteers.